Nice to see everyone. As always, Caitlin's recording this for us, and she'll send out the footage if you need it for sound bites or clarification. And if you've got any follow-up questions as well, then obviously just contact the news desk. And I'll hand over to Marvin.
Thanks, Saskia. So I'll just take you through a few points at the beginning. As ever, you can ask whatever you want off the back of that. First off, our COVID numbers. So far we have 1,655 confirmed cases. That's 61 cases over the last 7 days, which is down on the number of confirmed cases we had last week, interestingly. That currently leaves us with a prevalence rate of about 14.2 per 100,000, again down from 19.4 per 100,000 over the last numbers. Now, I share the numbers with you because they're the numbers, but I urge caution with that. It could be because people are struggling to get tested. We have consistently had the data to show that we've performed along with the Southwest relatively favourably over the rest of the country, and we certainly are not in the territories of 130 cases per 100,000. But you know, the numbers would suggest good news, but we're just being very, very cautious about that. And our senses are our number around here is around about 1 at the moment. So as ever, we're just saying being very careful. We are trying to emphasise the current guidelines so people are aware. We understand there's been lots of confusion with the rate of change. Masks are to be worn in shops, indoor settings, and public transport. And clearly there are exemptions for medical reasons, but we do want to continue to emphasise that. We want people to understand the rule of 6. That in both indoor and outdoor gatherings are limited to 6 people from more than one household. Exemptions are in place for places of worship, schools and sports activity as well. And obviously restaurants and pubs can have more than 6 people in them, but they can't have tables of more than 6 people there. And we've also had the announcement of the Marshall scheme for more enforcement powers. Dare I say, it's another example of someone making an announcement at a national level without having any conversation with local authorities who they're saying will have these marshals, and no conversation around paying for it either. I think when I read about it in the LGRU briefing that comes out each day, it said that it would be expected to come from existing funds from local authorities. Well, we know we're taking a £14 million, possibly more hit in Bristol through COVID anyway. So I think Andy Burnham was also talking about this as another example of a national announcement without any conversation with local authorities who actually do the real work. In terms of our testing facilities, 6,135 tests in the last week. We really are wanting to emphasize here the conditions under which people should go for tests, and that is if you have symptoms. And there are 3 things to come into alignment. One is a new and continuous cough, a high temperature, and a loss of taste. I know I'm a parent. I've got 3 little ones. You get runny noses and all that. We are asking people to be vigilant, but we are asking them to look for the symptoms, because in the face of a test system that is struggling, to use a bit of British understatement, we do need to do our own vigilance and take care of it. I thank people for being incredibly careful, but please look out for the symptoms: a new continuous cough, high temperature, and a loss of taste before you reach out. In terms of in our schools, we have had a number of confirmed cases in schools, interestingly, right across the city. We are at pains to share that this is not necessarily about schools in and of themselves being a place where COVID is being spread. It is more about mixing in homes and across households and outside of schools, then turning up into schools with COVID. So our schools have done, obviously, as we've shared every week, incredible amounts of work to make sure they're COVID secure. But there are cases appearing across the city. And we've shared many a times before that we expect there to be more cases because we are in the process of unlocking. So we were anticipating this, and the schools will have their protocols in place to manage for the safety of all year groups. That we've had on the front of employees and workers also, that unemployment has obviously increased. I think we're at about 4.1% nationally now. This is going to be playing itself out in the city. We're just doing a bit of analysis. I've got my city leaders call at 12:30 today. We'll be talking about unemployment on that agenda. We know it's particularly going to be hitting 16 to 24-year-olds. So one of the reasons the City of Bristol College has been so proactive in opening up their spaces for all young people who apply. So we are anticipating this economic downturn having that impact. There's something else, though. Our unions have been sharing with us that they've had increasing levels of aggression and hostility towards workers who are asking people to comply with the guidance. And this is one of those situations where I just think we need, as a city, as a public, to take a deep breath when someone does say something to us, invades our space. We feel like we're being told what to do. It is not that some of those frontline workers, whether they be in retail or our public transport, are wanting to invade people's privacy. They've been asked to take on a job. They've been asked to take on a level of responsibility that goes beyond their everyday job description to help keep us safe. And can we just ask for a bit of a popular graciousness towards people who are doing their job and recognise that and not react with hostility and take care of people when they are doing their job to keep us safe? That would be incredibly helpful and make our city a much more pleasant place to be. Two final things. One is on the cabinet front. Obviously, Councillor Smith is no longer in the cabinet, has got a fantastic opportunity with a housing association, again, getting homes built, managing the stock. So we're still in line with our challenges, but we're redistributing the responsibilities that were in Paul's portfolio. I'm going to be taking direct oversight of strategic housing delivery in my office and with my senior team here. Housing services, include across landlord services and homelessness, is going to go to Helen Godwin. And we think actually this is an incredible opportunity. For some time we've been sharing that we think that delivering homes and affordable homes, the right homes in the right locations, is a key policy tool. Helen already has responsibility for children, women and families. Now giving her the opportunity to get her hands on how we manage our housing stock, which is key to children, women's and families' fortunes in the city, we think actually brings us a fantastic alignment and actually makes sense. Housing delivery is one thing, managing our existing stock for good social outcomes is another, which is great, and you'd be free to reach out to Helen. And thirdly, we're bringing Councillor Afzal Shah into Cabinet, as you will be aware. And Afzal is going to take responsibility for climate, ecology, and sustainable economic development. Now, that's also a big deal for Afzal next week, because next Thursday, we're going to be launching our ecological emergency strategy that we've been working on since we launched the idea in December, brought it to Cabinet in February, and the work's been going on that. And I will say that has landed in many ways at the right time. There were no BBC documentaries on species extinction to that extent at that time, but our ecology strategy, which is a 10-year plan to support wildlife, ecosystems and habitats within Bristol, is landing at this time that we are being alerted to not just having a climate emergency, but the ecological emergency as well. And Afzal will take on Cabinet responsibility for that. And the final point was that ecological strategy that is going to be next week. So you probably want to keep your eyes open for that one. But having said that, let me throw the doors open to you to ask whatever you'd like to ask. Let me hand back to you, Saskia. I think you're chair this session.
Amanda, you're not on mute. Would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure. I just wondered, is the council going to be introducing the COVID marshals? I mean, I know that there doesn't seem to be any more funding from central government, and the council, isn't swimming around in loads of cash, but is that something that the council is planning to do?
We're having a talk about it, and we'll have to review this. I think one of the points we've repeatedly made is that a single idea in Westminster does not necessarily land equally in a city that's incredibly different and experiencing COVID in very different ways. So our prevalence levels are relatively low. That, again, I keep stressing, that does not mean we are relaxed about it. We are on the front foot, and we need to do everything we can to make sure people are taking on behaviours that keep us most safe and keep it as low as possible. But we're not in an extreme situation as they are in some other parts of the country, where they may need to take incredibly intensive action to stave off the immediate threat of a hard lockdown. So we'll take a view on that with our Director of Public Health. It's certainly possible, and we'll make sure you are fully aware if we decide to go ahead with that.
Thank you.
Anything else, Amanda, that you'd like to ask?
No, I was going to ask about the rule of 6, but it does sound as if, you've sort of covered that off. So
great,
okay.
Thank you. Paul, would you like to ask any questions?
I've got a couple of things. I'll just do them one at a time. Just talking about housing here, and obviously we've both seen that the figures for affordable housing won't be met. We've heard the reasons. Just want to get a sense, Marvin, of your thoughts, your reaction, whether you're disappointed, etc.
Yeah, well, of course, we've made housing our key policy tool, not just to get numbers going, but to build quality communities that support families, support mental health, education, and attainment. But we have delivered phenomenal numbers of housing, more than the city's delivered in a year before. We've taken a big, as you say, we've been through the reasons, we've taken a big hit from COVID. Some of our schemes fell into, dare I say, political gaming with Hengrove, for example, and we don't deliver them alone. We need housing associations, developers to work with us. That's how we get the machinery in place. We still have a fantastic national reputation for getting homes delivered. And actually next week, again, I've been asked to speak to the Homes England annual staff event again, and we get that kind of platform because we are recognised as a city that's getting things done. And as you look across the Bristol landscape, you will see the construction going on. Of course, I would love to have had 800 more, because we said at least 800 homes going up this year, but we have to be real. It's an incredibly challenging time, and there are factors beyond our control. But we continue to press on, and we'll continue to prioritise affordable homes.
Thank you. Just the other thing, sort of linked into that, obviously the government have brought forward quite substantial proposals for changing the planning process, which have come under some criticism. What do you make of the government's plans to change planning?
Yeah, they result from a government that's not actually talking to us about the problems we actually have. They're solving a problem we don't have. We have plots of land with permissions that are not being built out. Getting more permissions out there is not the challenge. That has been known for many years. And if they'd actually talked to us, we'd have said, actually, what we need are the powers to make sure that those sites get built out once they have permission. I'm also concerned about relaxation on our control, our power, our influence over that. Now is not the time to lessen the democratic oversight of housing delivery. If we end up with a free rein for developers and in some sense just about numbers and a dash for growth, you could end up with developments that are not in line with our need to meet the challenge of the climate emergency, do not come in line with our statement and intentions to deliver on the ecological emergency, do not build the mixed tenure, balanced communities that we've set out to build. I mean, that we want to build good quality homes, not just get the numbers up, but they're not giving us, they're not supporting us in the powers to get that, and that's a problem. I'm aghast because this pattern of a few, you know, obviously smart people up in London sitting around the table coming up with an idea and then blanket throwing it across the UK with no regard to what we are actually trying to take on and deliver is one that is being repeated time and time again. And to be perfectly frank, it's just not good enough. We're really being let down by that approach.
Thank you. It's great.
Okay.
Can I just say, Paul, sorry, I just want to say, just one other thing. It is a real concern of mine that as we go into economic depression, there will be a dash for growth. And that dash for growth, because it is so desperate, will become values free. We cannot have a values free dash for economic recovery. We can have a recovery that is full of values and full of principles around climate, inclusion and ecology. But we need to hear more from government on that. And the only way we're going to get it is by strengthening the role of local government, not as a blocker, but as a facilitator and a convener of place. It's a real concern of mine that this is where we could end up.
Thanks. And Ellie, have you got a question?
Morning, everyone. Thanks. I guess leading on from that, I've just seen that Sadiq Khan in London is calling for rent freezes for the next 2 years to try and mitigate against the economic fallout from COVID. Is that something that you could consider for Bristol, and is it even something that could be implemented?
Yeah, so Sadiq would need, national government would need to move on that because it's not within our remit, but certainly we would be interested in talking to Sadiq about that. I imagine he would have had a conversation with some of the other metro mayors, and it'd probably be a topic for conversation. In fact, we'll make it a topic for conversation with the core cities. So yeah, I mean, this will be something for Helen to be thinking about also, as we think about how do we make sure our current people currently in housing, our own housing stock and amongst the private rental sector also are kept safe and able to have a strong foothold in the city.
So maybe something to come back to.
Lots of other things as well about affordable housing there. If I could just say, Ellie, we're going to try and get out the traps incredibly quickly on retrofitting homes to insulate them, reduce the bills. Again, that's one of the dynamics that make homes unaffordable, to tackle fuel poverty and food poverty as well, living wage and all the stuff we've done around it. So we are, that wider drive to make life affordable in Bristol, including housing, is clearly what we've been about the last 4 years.
Okay, thank you. And the other question I have is just a completely different topic, but the news about the Brunel's Old Station yesterday, I'm struggling to get any answers on how much it was sold for. I understand it was sold by the council to Network Rail, and I haven't heard back from either about the costs involved, and wondered if you had any information on that.
The final cost. Let me go and dig for my paperwork, and I don't have that number in my head right now, but I can get the.
Is it something that ever came up at a cabinet meeting or anything? I feel like it came out a little bit out of the blue that it was sold off to Network Rail.
We've been planning. The regeneration of that part of the city has been going on for some time. So we'd have been discussing the whole kind of rollout of how we make that area available for regeneration as part of the wider plans, such as the university site behind the train station as well. So yeah, but let me go in. Let me get some paperwork out for you and send you a bit of more of a background on it. Who did you ask that you didn't get an answer from?
Council press in general. So Network Rail as well, who said they couldn't disclose it. I've yet to hear back from the council. So yeah.
Okay. Well, if it's obviously if there is a commercial sensitivity around it, that's not about undermining democracy. It's about commercial sensitivity. But let me find out what we can give and what we can share. We will.
All right. Thank you.
All right. But it's an area, it's at the heart of cities regeneration opportunity, decarbonised transport, decarbonising offices and homes. So hugely important that we get that part of the city done.
Super. Thank you, Marvin, and thank you everyone for joining us today. As I said, we'll get this shared with you as soon as possible, and any follow-up questions, just contact the news desk. Cheers.
Right.
Take care.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye-bye.